good to see you this morning. It is what day is it today? It is Monday. It's Monday. I was like, what day is it? I'm sorry, what time is it? What day is it? What's happening in my life right now? Good morning, good morning. Okay, so I have a few new cool things we're gonna do today, which is gonna be fun. But I have to make sure that everything is in the right place first for that to actually play out. You know how you get better at doing things. You know, the more you do them, the more you practice, the better you get at it. Anything research administration, you know that. Let me just make sure I can hear myself. Hold on. New cool things we're gonna. I can totally hear myself. Amazing. All right, we're gonna hit record and then we're gonna hit the road. Hi. Okay, great. All right, so we're recording. Everything's happening. I think I forgot my earrings, but that's okay. We'll be earringless today. This is the way we're gonna do it. Hi. We've had a weekend off. We took Memorial Day off, which was great. I I kind of really needed a weekend to kind of sit and just be in silence, meditate, process some things. I've been doing a lot of work with my decolonization coach and my therapist and like a variety of people actually in terms of healing and growth and whatnot. And I think I just reached a point where I was like, oh my God, I've just been doing too much. Too much stuff's been happening. I've been doing too much personal development, crying, journaling, that kind of thing. So I needed like a weekend of just, and I didn't realize that I needed it until my wife suggested that we do something. I can't remember what it was. And I was like, yeah, I'm out. I just was like, and so sometimes you just have to kind of stop and just stop. So today, one of the things that we're going to talk about actually is going to be boundaries. Speaking of stopping, we're going to talk about boundaries a little bit and research administration specifically. Um, we're going to talk about job descriptions today. That's going to be fun. You know what? Just seriously, so I have a pen, and well, I had a pen once upon a time in my life. Once upon a time, I had a pen, and then I did not. The end. Here, I'll use this pen. This is a nice blue pen. There we go. We'll use this pen. There we go, in case I need to write something down because I forget. What was I saying? So we were talking about research administration. Oh, yeah. Okay, so we're going to talk about boundaries. That's the first one. Okay, and then we're going to talk about job description, which is going to be fun. And then I want to share some stuff with you about what I've been working on and sort of like how it came to be, share some resources with you. This actually, like, I've been working on a lot of resources that I continue to build upon. I'm a content creation fiend. I love creating content. I am a streamer and a content creator at heart. I love to create things that are cute and pretty, that also give value and help research administrators be better research administrators, right? Like the things that either that I wish I'd had when I was starting out, or that did exist when I was starting out, in the form of, individual people being able to provide me with that level of attention. So we'll talk a little bit about like those kind of things. So it's going to be a really fun day. I like to start the weekend off. I typically have, I typically start Mondays off with like a ugh, right, and this is several years ago. I started going live when I was many about, oh God, it must be like 8 or 9 years ago now, and I really enjoyed it because it kind of forced me to start the week off with enthusiasm and excitement rather than starting it off with like, oh my God, Monday. Because like I feel like and the truth is like there's a very real reason for a lot of people to start off Mondays feeling ick. So this is not being like, oh my God, stop being a whiny person. Not at all. It's really more along the lines of, okay, like Mondays are tough. What can we do to like make them more fun or add something to look forward to on a Monday morning? Um, so let me just figure out where my what's it called it is, and then we'll figure out where we want to start with. I think I want to start with boundaries because like boundaries is my favorite. Actually, I know what I'm going to start with. I actually know what I'm going to start with. We're going to start with what it is that. So I watched this live streamer, and he was talking about how you've got to be able to like say really simply what is it that you're doing, right? Really simply, like, I'm a research administrator. Great. What is a research administrator, right? And so then usually that'll start the conversation. So when it comes to like creating content, I was like, I want to be able to like someone in like 2 seconds be like, what is this stream about? What is Vanessa Live about, right? And so I'm like really thinking, and so his stream is like, hey, I'm Josh and you're watching X game, and I was like, okay, great. So hi, I'm Vanessa, and this is a stream about research administration, right? And like that's what I was like, my God, that is like the simplest. And I was like, this is a stream about research administration. Like, I like going live about research administration. And so what I can commit to you, on any live that you come with me on is that it will be a stream about research administration. And when it's over, you will say to yourself, that was a stream about research administration. That was what that stream was about. So I can commit to you that that is what the stream is going to be. So I thought that was interesting because, like, again, in addition to doing the work and creating content and all that, I also just love to create content. I love to art. I love the art. I love creating video. I love creating snap sheets. You'll see some of them later. It's just fun for me, right? But it doesn't make any sense for me to like create all this stuff and put it in a vacuum. I needed a place to put it, right? I needed a place to put it. And so, out of the place to put it came my Manessa.tv channel, ultimately came my Patreon, a lot of other things. So now I've just actually built a library of resources that any new research administrator can access. And I'll share that with you a little bit later. I'll share how to get there. I'll share, what it is. I'll share all the things. But, let's start with boundaries, shall we? Let's start with boundaries. So I am a contributing editor on the NCURA magazine. And so each quarter, I work with somebody on the self-care section to get an article written for the magazine and then published. And usually it's somebody else. But this particular time, oh, you know what I just realized? Hold on, I just realized something. I'm live streaming and I don't even have my comments screen up. My gosh. Manessa. And you know who watches me from YouTube is, I bet you, here, it'll show up here. There we go. All right, great. Fabulous. I just realized that because that's where Kelly watches from, right? And so when Kelly I need to find a way to be able to pull out this comments thing. And then I'm going to do the timestamps thing so I can see the timestamps. But I wish I could pull this thing out so that I could, wow. Okay. Well, that's interesting. I clicked on a link and it took me to the actual live stream. And I think, okay, great. I think I can see the comments here. So perfect. So now we've gotten ourselves to a position where I can see the comments. So that's nice. Okay, great. I mean, I just hate for somebody to comment. Also, I'm going live streaming on Twitch for the first time. I know, Twitch is usually for video games, but I wanted like to try it and see like what happens. And, I've never streamed live to Twitch before. So God knows we might get some video gamers being like, first of all, why are you stealing Josh Strife's stuff? And then second of all, what is research administration? Which that would be fun. Hey, I want that intersection of video gamers and research administrators. Like, I need to find those people. Those people are going to be amazing at research admin. So boundaries. So I wrote an article about boundaries for the upcoming issue in August, I think. And the thing about that particular article, as I move this over here to be more where I can see it, is that I made a post basically asking in the Res Admin mailing list. I said, listen, so I saw a like signature field in somebody's email that basically said, hey, I'm responding to this email outside of regular work hours because that's what my schedule is. Please don't feel like you have to answer it. And I thought, you know what, that's really cool. I like that person is setting expectations, right? And it's not necessarily setting boundaries. I mean, they are setting boundaries, but they're also setting expectations, right? Where it's like, so people can know this is how you hear from me, so on and so forth. I work with Sierra Janice, who made my Kajabi site many, many years ago. And she's so brilliant, and she actually has an autoresponder from her inbox that basically says, I check emails on these days and I respond on these days and so on, because that's the type of business that she has that she can do that. So I find the email autoresponders and the email signatures to telegraph information to be really valuable in terms of setting expectations. And once people know what to expect from you, they typically don't tend to push that hard, right? Because they're like, I know what to expect and so on. It's usually when people don't know what the boundaries are, they try to like push as far as they can to get what they can. But I thought that was great. And one of the things that I have been talking about for years is setting boundaries. Now, I have actually a huge script that I used to give away for business owners and boutique owners about how do you set boundaries around your business, your life, things like that. And I was like, and people found it very helpful because when the time comes to actually set boundaries, when we're sitting there going, okay, I need to say X words, I need to do Y thing, or I need a tactic for how to set a fence around certain areas of my life so that work is not taking over all of it. it helps to have a script. Like for me, especially, I can't come up with anything on my own. I'll sit there and freak out. But if I have a script, I'll be like, oh, okay, I can do this. So I made a post in the Res Admin mailing list basically asking, what are some of the things that you set boundaries around and how do you set those boundaries and, how does it work out for you and what are your thoughts? I could not have predicted how much amazing information. Like I knew I was going to get responses, right? Cuz like the amazing information I knew I would get. What I didn't expect was the volume. The volume is like, cuz like I do this, I've been on social media for over a decade. I know that when you ask these kinds of questions, like if you have thousands of people, you're likely to get a few answers, just because of pattern blindness. People have their own stuff going on, they don't notice. But you also have to capture someone's interest enough to where they feel like it is worth it for them to take the time away from whatever other thing it is that they're doing, cost transfer, grant submissions, whatever, to write out an email response. And what was fascinating to me was that not all these responses were just one or two sentences. Like some people wrote out very extensive essays about their boundary setting, and it was amazing. There were things I hadn't thought of. There were things that I was so relieved to see so many people are doing, like turning off notifications on their phone, not having work email on their phone, things like that. Actually, let me share with you my new scene that I've created so that we can do this together. Hold on. Is this it? This is it. Okay. I don't know why this is showing up so small, so we're just going to go big. Okay, there we go. Go there. Okay, there we are. All right. This is boundaries, though. This is the wrong one. So we're gonna update that, and we're gonna update it to boundaries. Boundaries article. There we go. Okay, done. All right, now we're gonna look at boundaries. Okay. There we go. Okay. So, this is, okay. So in this particular article, I talked about, there we go. Here were some of the ones. These were the top ones that came from the article. There we go. So from the article, this is kind of fun here. No, don't do that. There we go. I'm still learning how to do some of these things. There we go. Okay, there we are. Move that here. Okay, perfect. There we go. Perfect. All right, much better. All right, great. So, I made the post, and I have been working on boundaries for a long time. So I had a video actually that I had recorded about the mechanics of setting boundaries. Like, how do you set boundaries? How do you deal with the discomfort of setting boundaries? Like, it's not so much the actual idea of like, don't have your work email on your phone, or use delay send, or things like that, right? As much as it was, how do you deal with the mechanistic part in your body of setting boundaries, like when it feels uncomfortable and stuff like that. So I did recorded that probably in February, and it's in the editing suite right now. And so my hope is that I would have a few things to add to the video that would be ideas that came from other people. And the volume that I got from the Res Admin mailing list was so great that I actually realized, okay, you know what, it's gonna be a second video all on its own, and it's an article. So not only is it like a second video, it's an article. It's like, it is a lot of resources that came from that Res Admin mailing list. So if you are not a member of the Res Admin mailing list yet, I strongly recommend checking it out. It's an old school listserv, and often it can become more like a job board than anything else, but it has so much value in terms of someone will ask a question, and because some of these people have been in research administration for many, many, many years, there's a wide variety of people who are a member, right? So they have so many different skill sets, right? So you've got somebody in corporate, you've got somebody who's a consultant, you've got somebody who is working in a primarily undergraduate, you've got somebody who's working in a giant academic medical center. You've got like such a variety of people in these spaces who are all research administrators, that you get to really see a wide spectrum of responses to individual questions that sometimes will actually make you wonder about the answer itself. You're like, you know what, maybe I need to rethink it. So like sometimes there'll be something where I'm like, oh yeah, this is definitely how it's done. And then someone will answer something and I'll be like, you know what, that's actually a really good idea. I hadn't thought about that, right? And so I think it's a really, crowdsourcing is one of my favorite things in the world, which is why I wrote the question to the Boundaries Done For You list, so that we could gather everybody else's information. So you look at this, like these were the ones that came up. Number one, like the most important was don't have your work email on your phone. Use the delay send, which was fabulous. You know, the blocking out flow time and taking time for lunch was a difficult one, I think, for a lot of us, because, you know, we'll block time out on our calendar, but that's you can have oppressive bosses who want you to have like space available for them to like take time if they need to, who don't really understand like boundaries, right? Or we will break our own boundaries, right? So that's the video that is currently in the editing suite, is really about how do you not break your own boundaries, right? Break your own trust with yourself. Like, honestly, I'm the one I usually break my boundaries before somebody else does. So this was a really great article. So I want you to keep an eye out for the magazine, obviously for the one that's coming out, because obviously I wrote the article and that's amazing. But more importantly, make sure that you do check out the NCURA magazine. You can find it on the NCURA website. If you're not a member, I strongly recommend joining. I have found NCURA to be a very, very valuable resource and one of the pillars of my professional growth and professional development and learning. Especially right now, you know, one of the interesting things that I found is there's a research administrator, and I cannot remember where I met this research administrator for the life of me. It definitely was not an NCURA event, because they had never heard of NCURA. And so I brought it up, and what had happened is like they were brand new to the profession. The person who had been in their position before at the organization that they were at, had recently left, retired, maybe. I'm not sure what happened with that person. But, you know, this was like a brief and passing conversation. I can't remember the exact story, but basically the person who was there is now gone. And so the person who would typically tell you, oh, hey, you're a new research administrator. Here, let's go back to the other camera. There we go. The person who would, you know, usually tell you about your job, you know, development and things like that is gone. And so, you know, you have new people coming in who don't know about these professional organizations. And there are so many more now. So I'm actually going to write an article for my Patreon, maybe even on LinkedIn, about, excuse me, about the different types of professional development organizations that exist. And the other kind of article I wanted to write was actually about the resources that exist for new RAs, because I think those are the two most important things. If you're a new RA and you don't know where to go, you're looking for resources, and you don't necessarily know about the SRA training, or that NCURA has a pre-award training, or that Dave No does the RAD sessions every month, right? Like, there's so many incredible people and resources out there that a lot of people just don't know about, because if you're brand new, why would you go looking? Like, why would you go looking? And your Google searches are going to be limited. Your results are going to be limited by what Google's AI has decided at any given moment is important. And so you really do need that. This is why our jobs are not going away in the context of AI, by the way, is that, okay. So, God, I love talking about boundaries. It's like so much fun. So I wanted to talk about that a little bit, because one, I wanted to share about the NCURA magazine. Two, I wanted to stress boundaries, and recommend that you keep an eye out on LinkedIn. Make sure that you are subscribing to me on YouTube, following me on LinkedIn, sending me out to your friends and family who are also research administrators, because there's a really great video on boundaries coming up about the mechanics of setting them. And then a second video after that, which is going to be about, okay, the tactics, right? Because like there's the two aspects. There's the, oh, how do I feel about setting boundaries? And, you know, do I listen to myself, and do I need therapy and all that? And then there's the part where it's like, okay, what words do I say? You know, where do I put the sign? Is, you know, what is the equivalent of shutting the office door, you know, for the current day and age? Okay. So while we're doing that, I'm going to take a sip of my tea. Oh, I have a note in here. This is actually so cool. So I have a note for it's like, oh, make sure you talk about this note that you got from somebody. I said that she likes to listen to me while she's doing other things. She's like, oh, you have so many videos now. I'll just keep, you know, your stuff on in the background. And you know, it's easy to do on a YouTube channel now, because you can just put it on like a TV channel, and it just like will play all of somebody's playlist or whatever. So I do that a lot. Oh my God. I cannot even begin to tell you how much streaming I have on in the background in my second monitor. It's like my perfect second monitor content is like, here, you go over there. I'm going to work over here. And then, you know, you do your thing, YouTube person. And I'm just going to listen to you. We'll do that thing. Okay, these are the things I'm going to come to later. That's not what I'm coming to now. All right, let's talk. I'm going to close up boundary setting, and then we're going to talk about updated job descriptions. Okay, so this was actually fun. Okay, so I am such a big believer that it's time for us to rethink a research administration job description. So I've been working on this for a while. I've sent it to a few people. I've gotten some feedback, and it's really good, very thoughtful feedback, and I appreciate it. Um, one of the conversations that we've been having a lot. We had it at Ankara Region 1. We had it at the FRA, PRA. We have it in our Collaborate conversations. Like, we have these all over the place. Everybody's talking about this, right? Is the intersecting challenges of increasing base salaries for new and experienced RAs, right? So, like, somebody coming in new, how can we increase the base salary that they're getting, while also removing the educational requirements, because almost everybody I talk to says that research administrators don't need degrees. I don't think you need a degree to be a research administrator. In fact, I've known people who were already in the field who are doing great, who had to just go back and get that piece of paper just to get a title. It's a colossal waste of time. Like, they're excited. Here's the thing. If you want to get a degree and you have a degree, which I have a degree, it's amazing. It's wonderful. It's great. Fabulous. However, that's not a viable solution for a lot of people anymore. And it's honestly just not a viable solution in general for, just for the future for many, many individuals. And so our structure of hiring is gatekeeping the job away from some of our most capable new research administrators, right? And, it is weird to think about in general, because we are so used to the credentials being the key element of hiring someone to get that high salary. That's why I have a degree. That's why I got a degree. I went back and got a second degree, right? Like two bachelors. I liked getting them, but when I reflect upon it, and I had a great time doing it, and I learned a lot, but when I reflect upon it, my degree is in film and anthropology. I've used both of them, actually. I use both of them every day in the work that I do, but I'm not an anthropologist, nor am I film, nor do I make films. But, and for so many years, that was just the way you did it. You graduated, you got your degree, and then you think. But honestly, that's an antiquated way of thinking now. And the more RA directors I talk to, the more I realize that we're all on board with this idea, right? So, like, I actually very rarely talk to a research administrative manager or supervisor who doesn't say the exact same thing, that it's not really necessary. But at the same time, right, sorry, I'm figuring out how to go back to that. There you go. At the same time, our leadership, right? And when I say leadership, I mean like at the VP level or HR, right? Those are the two areas specifically that they're not on board, because they still have those belief systems from like the 1970s and 80s. Where you could still smoke in McDonald's, right? Now, my theory, so my thought then became, okay, how do we, and it's a valid question, right? Like, I understand that it's a valid question when you say, okay, we have been using this as the metric for validating somebody's position to be in validating somebody's qualifications to be in a role for many, many years. So it's, even if someone is willing to be on board, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier with the boundaries. What is the option, right? So like, and it's on me particularly, because this is what I think, right? If I'm like, okay, this is what I think we need to do, then I need to make that case. And so I've been talking to so many people about, like, I'm trying to get an idea from research administrators, like, okay, well, how would you do it? What would you do, right? And so one of the conversations that's come up is that we can, is the difference between, apparently there's a widget here that's saying that my keyframes are too, something is weird with my keyframes, apparently. Go figure. So one of my theories is that the one of the ways we can elevate these positions is by not listing clerical tasks in job descriptions, right? So when you think back into our original vision of our job, it was initiated as a secretarial position in the 50s. And at the time, a snapshot was created in that time that basically cemented us as a subservient support to investigators. And what's really interesting is that when I asked that question on the Res Admin mailing list about boundaries, somebody wrote back and said, we serve the investigators, but we are not subservient to them. And it was interesting to me to get that from somebody that isn't me, because obviously, like, in my mind, I can see these things happening, right? But I don't know, because we don't talk about this a lot. And that's sort of why I do the live streams, is because these conversations are all happening in like 2 or 3 people sitting in a room during the Region 4 annual meeting, right? Or at NCURA annual or at SRA or whatever, right? But it's really difficult for us all to make changes collectively as a group of research administrators if we're not talking about these things out more visibly, right, in a more public sphere. And I know that sometimes conversations have happened in Collaborate, but even Collaborate for NCURA is still behind. You have to be a member of NCURA, you have to sign up, right? And so I feel like some of these conversations are ones that we really need to be having, like literally out on YouTube, where anybody can come in and say, Vanessa, this idea is stupid, this is what I think, or Vanessa, this idea is amazing, this is how we can make it better, or whatever, right? But it does need to happen in a space where the most number of people can hear the ideas, either agree or disagree, and then we can have the conversation that ultimately takes us where we're going, right? So I was talking to Lana from Region 1 the other day, and she was saying, we're not support for our investigators. We are an instrumental leg of the stool of research administration, of research, like forget research, of research, period, right? Just like there's no research envisioned and conducted without the PIs, there is literally no activity that can occur without us creating the underlying engine that makes it happen, right? And if you want a proof of that, just stop working for 2 weeks, right? And the thing is we already know this, while at the same time as we hold that in our mind, because we know that if we don't do something, who will do this work? How will this happen? So we are very well aware of how important our job is to getting the research administrative enterprise running. But I think that cognitively speaking, I don't think we fully ever actualize it, like, and internalize what that actually means, right? And if we don't internalize what that means, which is evident in our job descriptions and job postings, like that's where it all starts, then how are the investigators, right? Because like we don't see ourselves that way. And so one of the things that I thought about was a perspective change to our approach to research administration, which I have a class that I do for called Research Administration Through a New Lens, which I'm actually going to rewrite the whole thing based off of this particular idea, which is that I read this book called Rocket Fuel, and I'll be really honest, I'm not really a huge fan of the book because I feel like it's a little it's longer than it needs to be to get the idea across, but the idea is brilliant, okay? And it's magic. Rocket Fuel is the magic that is created, okay, when two leaders, one a science-focused idea machine, the other a master of details and execution, okay? So two leaders, science-focused and details and execution, combine their talents to propel research progress, okay, to unimaginable heights, right? Like when I am in sync with my investigators, the things that we can accomplish together are just astounding. And in fact, it's why I love research administration so much, is because when that partnership is there, and I love this partnership, it's actually one of my favorite parts of being a research administrator, is partnering with the PI. And they have these ideas, right? They have these grants, they're doing all these things, and then they need someone to be able to make order out of the administrative and financial part so they can keep doing the science part. And the only reason why this became a thing that I started to think about was because when my business started to grow, so like several years ago when I was my business was scaling up incredibly, it was just doing great. I ended up shutting it down because I realized I did not want to be that. I could see what was happening. It's a longer story than that, but really I realized that if I stayed in that position, I was always going to be trying to scale up. I was always going to be chasing. I was always going to be constantly on the roller coaster, and I didn't want that for myself. And I actually wanted to live a much more yogic, I wanted to disconnect from that feeling of like constantly needing to work and when you eat what you kill, like you constantly need to work. So, but this is before that happened, right? So like we're scaling up at this stage. So it was actually this scaling up process that made me realize I didn't want to do this, right? And that I needed to rethink how to do business as an individual person that was not scaling up and that had no intention of scaling up. I just wanted to be my little thing, doing my little thing, right? But at this stage, I was still caught up in the capitalist machine. And so I'd actually hired 10 people. It was, oh my God, it was absolutely amazing. We're like, I just paid like 10 grand on this website. Like I literally did all of these things, and I'm like on the cusp. You can still see some of my videos on YouTube. Everything's there. And I said, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm done. And because I realized what it was actually going to take, right? I understood what it was actually going to take. I understood the price I was actually going to pay in various capacities. And I was like, God, I don't want to do this. I don't want, this is not how I want to live. I got on a train and I'm halfway to my destination and I realized, oh shit, I'm on the wrong train. But while I was in that space, I had been trying to do everything. Okay. So I had been doing the actual work of my business, which at this point I was running two successful businesses. So I had one person who was helping to straddle both of them for me, and then one part of the business was in business ownership and teaching people how to run businesses and be successful at making money and all of those things. And that was combined with the efficiency portion of it, and then there was my research administration consulting business, and I was doing both of those things at the same time. And I just was like, oh my God, I have to stop, right? But while it was scaling up, I was doing all the things. So this is before I hired people, right? So I'm trying to do all the things, and I'm starting to get really overwhelmed and burned out, and it's not possible to do the number of things that I was trying to do. Sound familiar? And so and this time I'm the business owner. So in this case, put me in the role of the investigator, okay? Not as the RA, put me in the role of the investigator. So now I'm the investigator doing all of the science-focused idea machine, which is what I was doing in my work for my business, also trying to do all these other things because was mechanistically capable of focusing on those and doing those things. However, what I didn't understand was that these are like 7 jobs I was trying to do. And then once I actually started to understand how big my business had grown, because I didn't realize how big my business had grown. So and this is parallel with research administration. A lot of people don't realize how big research administration has gotten. Research administrators do, but a lot of organizations don't. And so then once I realized that had happened, I was like, oh, this is bigger than I thought it was, is when I started hiring people. And that's when I got the true lay of the land. And the true lay of the land is that whether I knew it or not, I had been doing the job of 7 people. I was burned out and I hadn't been able to do the things that I was actually trying to do. And I realized you need a team. You need a team, okay? So now if you think about that same philosophy, right, where instead of a business owner, you have the research business enterprise, right, where the PI is the visionary for the science, and we are the 10 people that I ended up hiring, right? When you frame it from that perspective, the PI becomes like your chief scientific officer of their research, and the RA becomes the COO of the research endeavor, which then automatically removes that power differential that exists currently and puts people on more equal footing, a psychological equal footing, right, which is very important. And that differential must be removed both optically, psychologically, and operationally to ensure that RAs are able to fulfill their roles as partners to the research enterprise and the stewards of federal funds. And so the way that I think we do this is by talking about the ways in which we can approach job descriptions to remove the job descriptions from being about tactical steps, okay, to strategic knowledge. And what do I mean by that? Okay, what I mean by that is when I've been looking at job descriptions, I post hot jobs every week on LinkedIn, so you can follow me on LinkedIn to see what hot jobs are happening. And when you look at, I just want to pull up the language here. When you look at oh, I'm so silly. I was literally right there. I was literally on it, and I'm like, oh, where is it? Okay. So there is a job description. Okay, so I pull out basically what I would consider to be a generic job description. Okay, just like a generic job description and I'm going to share my screen here for this one because I think this is like a really interesting and reframe of how we approach the JDs. Okay, oh, look at that. Look at me. Word. Boundaries article. We're already there, so we're not doing boundaries. We're doing updated job description. Okay, there we go. All right, let's do our updated job description here. No, I don't want to do that. That's not what we're trying to do. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to bring this here so I can see it a little bit better. Okay, so I pulled this job description up from, I understand why it looked that way now. Look at me learning all kinds of things. Okay. All right. So I went and I pulled out a job description from the what's it called thing? Res Admin mailing list. Okay, so I pulled basically a job description, and it's basically very similar to other job descriptions. And one of them says, so one of the lines in it says, okay, this is the first job description thing. Responsible for pre and post award contract and grant functions, primarily for department and various programs within the smaller organizational structure. Okay, so basically it's responsible for all pre and post award contract and grant functions. Okay. Primarily for the department. All right, so that is a tactical thing. Okay, so that tactically lists what it is that we do. So what I did is I basically pulled it out, and this is an experiment. I'm not saying that this is how we're like, but I'm going to put this up so you're welcome to use any of this language that you want in your job descriptions in the future. But I basically took this one, responsible for pre and post award contract, this part right here, and I broke it down into the specific steps that are involved in there. Okay, so now when you look at what this is, okay, this is what this job actually is. Directs the operational planning and coordination of grant applications within the department and consortium institutions, effectively triaging priorities amid competing deadlines, using advanced scheduling and resource allocation techniques in their brains. Okay, so whether they're using software that does it is not the point. We're doing the work, right? We synthesize deep fiscal and comprehensive and institutional knowledge while collaborating closely with scientific leaders to develop compliant, realistic grant budgets that meet both sponsor and institutional requirements. Okay. Analyzes and synthesizes information from agency and federal guidelines, as well as university policies to make well-informed decisions. Provides strategic guidance to faculty, staff, and administrators, ensuring adherence to regulations and optimization of outcomes. Oversees the execution and management of funded projects, ensuring compliance, fiscal integrity, and operational efficiency. Acts as a key operational partner to principal investigators, facilitating the seamless progression of research activities and achievement of project milestones. I need a voice to do that in. Like, directs the operational planning. So, hello everyone. This person will direct the operational planning and coordination of grant applications within the department and consortium institutions. Okay. The point is that the line that was in the job description says responsible for pre and post award contract and grant functions. Okay, that's it. That is a really high level, not accurate assessment of what we do in terms of the complexity and details. So of course, if somebody is going to do a salary analysis of something that is only high level tactical steps, they're going to do an analysis in high level tactical steps of things, and it's going to come out secretarial, because that is how the job has been defined so far. So one of the things that we really want to think about, and I'm actually going to post this online, so this is going to be in the Patreon, I'll post it online as well. You're welcome to use it, mine it, tear it to shreds and come up with something new. Tell me that this is not going to work and this is why it will work and how we can, whatever it is. Ultimately, it's really about having the conversation, because we've been doing job descriptions the same way for 25 years. I did job descriptions back in 2007 and they looked exactly like they do right now. I'm doing a job description today and it's the same as 2007. And so we really need to rethink how we are talking about research administration to make sure that it adequately telegraphs the complexity and high level thinking that is necessary in this job. That doesn't mean it requires a degree. It just means that it requires skill sets and a very, what's his face? A very specific set of skills. That dude, right? That dude. Okay. All right, so these were like my two big things for today that I was like, oh my God, these are all the stuff but I want to talk a little about what I've been working on and what you find and like where you can find it. And then we'll sort of wrap up with that. So, I have 2 to 3 slots open every week. So it's actually, I usually see about 4 REs a week, and it's about a half-hour call, which is just a half-hour call. It's not a paid thing. It's really, RAs like to nerd out about research administration. Some want to learn about, being a consultant. Some want to learn about how they can go to their next big job. They want help with resumes. Some are people who, have been interested in what I've been doing and want to share their ideas to be like, what do you think about this? And I can't even begin to tell you the brilliance that I get from these conversations. Like, my God, the kinds of things that research administrators are doing all across the country to solve some of these problems that we're having are so amazing. But we're not hearing about them. right? Like it's hard because like how do they let us know this, right? You can go on a stage, but that's only a couple times a year. You can do some YouTube videos for like NCURA or SRA, but in the end, like SRA is a little closed in terms of like who it is that does those videos. And NCURA has a, you know, most people, honestly, NCURA has a limited amount, and most people don't think that it's for them, for whatever, like in terms of for them to do, even though, by the way, it is. So I strongly recommend if you have something you want to talk about, reach out, make a video, do a thing. We would love to have you do more, like have more representation in YouTube Tuesdays. We're so there. But that's still a limited amount of options. Like ultimately, regardless, it's still a limited amount of options. And so I actually was fortunate enough to accidentally have recorded one of our conversations with Nancy Block that was from Lifespan in, oh my God, so brilliant. I've started editing it. I'm going to share that. And then Lana and I, we're going to be doing a lot more together. And then Tanya Blackwell and Saika Qureshi, who I talked to as well. Like, honestly, brilliant research administrators doing brilliant things that we just aren't hearing about. So what I'm really excited about is to share more of what other people are doing, because again, it's not always like we crowdsource the ideas. What works for me is not necessarily going to work for somebody else. And it's as long as somebody's willing to be like, hey, I'm starting the conversation, and then we can have whatever conversation we want. To that end, let me tell you a story, everybody. We're going to go back to the camera scene. No, we're not going back to the camera scene. We're going to share desktop now. And we're going to do window capture. There we go. Okay, and I'm pretty sure, there we go. Look at me being good here. Okay. All right. No, this isn't the one. This is the one. Okay, so you'll notice, you'll see a big other support there. Big other support. Okay. So this is my Patreon. Okay, you can get to Patreon by going to www.patreon.com/Manessa. Okay, and what the Patreon is it's essentially and I'll go here to home. I think let me log out. I'll go to about. We'll go to about. So what the Patreon essentially is that in the many conversations that I've had, I have found absolutely brilliant research administrators with things to share. I have found that there are some people that I talk to who are like, hey, I need a video about this. Like, so for example, in this case, let's start about other support. Someone needed a document to help them with other support. They hadn't done one before, and they were like, hey, can you help me out with it? And I'm like, yeah, sure, totally. Let's do it. Okay. So what I did was, and this is what I've started doing. I have a lot of these. I'll show you where YouTube. I will show you on YouTube. Okay. So we've got, there we go. Other support documents, just in times, and then I have a debarment one going up and stuff like that. So basically, this is where I'm just collecting all the videos that I created, some documentation that says, hey, this is what an other support is. The goal of these videos is typically, because I talk to both two different types of research administrators. I talk to like brand new ones, and then I talk to people who've been in research administration for a long time. A lot of the brand new ones have questions, right? How do I do this? Where do I go? And if you're talking to someone who, again, is the person who did research administration in their organization has left, they don't know where to go to get the information that they're looking for. And so I have started creating these videos, and they were all in there's a Google Drive here and a Zoom folder here, and I'm sharing it there, and I'm sending it. It started to get really unwieldy. So I put everything on YouTube, and then I realized, oh my God, I have snap sheets and things that I want to share, that I don't, like, I need a more consolidated location. So I moved everything to Patreon. Okay, so here's how the Patreon works. First things first is this is the Patreon for other support. I'm going to show you this. So this is the video here that basically walks you through it's got chapters in it. It walks you through the whole process of what is another support. It's an overview. It is meant to be for new research administrators who like got something thrown in their lap, and they're like, oh my God, I just need to get going. Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, with just a video that tells me what I need to do, what questions do I need to ask, and so on. So the video is basically meant to be a primer. The other thing that exists here is a snap sheet. So the snap sheet is, and I'm hoping it'll just open up, but it probably is not going to just open up the snap sheet, sadly. Okay, all right, that's fine. We'll just open it up this way, okay? So so the snap sheet is basically a 1 to 2 page document that outlines what it is. Right, here you go. This is what another support is. This is who needs it. and basic information for what somebody may need to know. This also has a checklist, so you can, like, if you're new, this is something I love, checklists. So if you're somebody who's new to research administration who's like, I need a checklist for, other support, there you go. You can just download this and get the checklist, and it'll basically give you all the questions that you can work through to make sure that your other support is done. So you've got the snap sheet, you've got the video. Oh, and then something someone asked for a video that says, listen, my PIs can never figure out how to sign. So I made a video showing you how to add an e-signature, and then also that you can send to your PI so that they can sign it. It's just basically, it's like a literally 30-second video that says this is how you sign your other support. So, okay, so I made these documents. Here's an institutional fact sheet one. There's a lot of stuff in here. And so this is the articles, blah, blah. And again, as I mentioned, I create a lot of content, and it's all about research administration because I love research administration. So this is where all the content will go. Now, this is free. So when you come into the thing, I'm going to sign out. And this is going to say for paid members. Don't worry about it. It's fine. This is an older Patreon that I set up. Okay. So if you look here, membership, there'll be a pink button here, which for some reason I don't see right now, but there'll be a pink button right here. It's because I'm already registered, that says join for free. It's just a pink button that says join for free. You click on the button, you can see every piece of content. There are paid versions, but getting paid version doesn't do anything for you. It doesn't give you any extra access. The only thing it does is it gets you one of these really cute little gifts from me. Oh my God, look how cute this gift is, just because it's so cute. I drew this and I was like, oh my God, I create shit. And then I'm like, oh my God, I need a reason for this. I need a reason for this to exist. Look, here we go. Okay, so you have the It Depends sticker. You have the It Depends print that you can put in like a 4x6 frame, or an It Depends mug, which I'm getting one for myself. But anyway, you don't get any actual extra access or anything. It really is just to help keep the mission going. Because let me be real, consulting is very sexy. It's super fun, but it is an eat what you kill job, and it is not for the faint of heart. And so this helps because all of the content that I create is a volunteer. So, okay, so the reason why you'd want to do this is because this is where you will find all of this information that people have been asking me about for the last several months. When I see them like, hey, where can I find a video for this? I need to learn how to do this. And I just haven't had everything in one location. So this is meant for new research administrators. It is not, none of the information is gate capped. I would love for me to have tons and tons and tons of people subscribing to this so that I know that the resources are getting out there and that people are able to use them. And my hope is that I can use this as a way to highlight all the brilliant ideas from the people that I am. Okay, let's go back to this one here. All the people that I'm talking to right now, because I've been talking to you, right? You're the one who are giving me all these great ideas, and I'm like, oh my God, how do I get all of your great ideas to everybody else so that we can all share together? So this is sort of what that destination is for. But again, everything can be found on YouTube. You don't ever have to subscribe to anything. You don't have to do anything. You can just literally go to YouTube. But the only challenge you're going to have if you go to YouTube is you won't be able to access any of the snap sheets with the checklists or any of the additional resources or blogs, because YouTube doesn't actually have that mechanism. And that's what made it very challenging for me to use YouTube, was because I had, I'm trying to actually create little trainings of things of value that people can be like, oh my God, I just got a new application and I've heard of this thing called debarment. I don't know what to do. And it's like, oh, well, here, let me tell you the 3 things you need to know about debarment. Here's your checklist of what you need to take care of right now. Now off you go. One of my favorite things before I wrap up and leave y'all is the questions to ask your manager, right? Because like when you have a new RA, you don't know what questions to ask. Right? Like you've not been doing it enough to know what do you need to know? So one is I wanted to come up with a list of questions so that you would be able to go and ask your boss that. But the other part of it is there's something very empowering about knowing which questions are the right questions and which questions are the stupid questions, right? Now, I don't think any questions are stupid questions. Let me be very real here. But we think they are, right? And so when I have a question that I think is stupid, whether it's stupid or not is not relevant, I'm more hesitant to ask it, right? I have had to work very hard over the years to just let that go and be like, all right, I'm going to ask all questions. I don't care. And what I've learned is that nobody thinks any questions are stupid, but that's our own head stuff, right? And so it's helpful if you have a list of questions that you already feel confident are good questions. And then here's what I want to recommend for all the snap sheets. pepper your questions in there, okay? Because your questions are good questions. In fact, asking good questions is what really tells your manager that they're like, wow, I'm glad you asked this question, especially because we're in such a compliance heavy industry. Um, these are the questions in the snap sheet will help to sort of embolden you, and hopefully you're, over time, or you are already the sort of person who's like, I'll ask any question, I don't care. Rock on. Rock on if that's what you do, because the truth is always be asking questions. Okay, so now we are going to have intent again next week. I will get some on the schedule so that you can add it to your calendar. I realized that I did not do that. I was like, all night long I thought I had this on a calendar, and I'm like, oh, I put it on the calendar, I did the thing. Nope, didn't have it on the calendar. All good. But it has been wonderful hanging out with you. I want to recommend again that you subscribe to the YouTube channel, because I'm going to be doing more live streaming on the YouTube channel and hopefully on Twitch. I want to see what happens with that. The goal being that I don't like being that much on. I like LinkedIn, it's fine, but it's more of a social media platform, less of like my channel. And I feel like if I'm on YouTube going live on my channel, then I'm like, I can go live whenever I want, do whatever I want. Like I can literally be live 24/7 if I want to, because it's my channel, right? As opposed to LinkedIn, where I feel like it's almost like a collective space. So stay tuned on YouTube, because there's actually going to be a lot more content, because I've been creating this way more content than you're seeing on LinkedIn. I just don't put it all there because it's just extra. It would be a little bit extra. All right. Have a wonderful rest of your week. It is so great to have started my week with you. I am hoping that, as I committed to you at the very beginning of this stream, that this would be a stream about research administration, and that I have checked off that box. Now that this is over, you will say, yes, this was a stream about research administration. And if you agree that, yes, this was a stream about research administration, please let me know in the comments. Like, did I achieve that goal? Did I do a stream about res admin?